Let me take you back briefly 11 score years ago. I know you're the historian, but I can't do mine without a little history. Let me take you to Philadelphia, May 13th, 1787. 55 delegates from the 13 original states of the newly formed United States of America filed into Independence Hall to begin debate and construction of a new Constitution to replace the enfeebled and inadequate Articles of Confederation. Now, these guys didn't all get there at once and filed in. In 1787, there were terrible roads. They had long distances to travel. They used horses, buggies, carriages. So, even though the date called was May 13th, some of the delegates didn't arrive until sometime in June. But they eventually got together. These delegates, whom Jefferson, reading a list of their names, called an assembly of demagogues, were a young gathering. Pinckney was 29, Hamilton 30, Rufus King 32, Jonathan Payton 26, and Governor Morris, whom some called the most brilliant of the crew, was 35. James Madison 36. At 81, Ben Franklin skewed the curve, but the average never got above 43 years old. The weather that summer was intensely hot. Hottest summer since 1750, some said. With nothing but open windows for airflow and the hot air accumulating inside from bloviating oratory and argumentative nature of the discussions, you can imagine how stifling and uncomfortable the delegates were. But they persevered through June, into humid July, on into the miserable, breathtaking heat of August and September. During this summer of stress and stultifying weather, some of the delegates lodged with their personal friends, some stayed at boarding houses, and many stayed in taverns. Now, taverns was different in those days. The evenings were spent by convention members in much conviviality and talk in the various taverns of the city, although you know most of it was in regard to meetings for the next day. There is one account of a dinner for 12 where there were 60 bottles of Madeira ordered. When the Constitution was presented for signing on the 17th of September, only 38 members were present. 4 fiercely opposed were absent. 4 went home in the middle of August. 9 who approved were also absent. Of those remaining, 3 refused to sign. George Mason and Edmund Randolph of Virginia, and Elbridge Gerry of Massachusetts. The major reason for their refusal was the lack of a Bill of Rights in the Constitution. When the dottery old Ben Franklin was helped forward from his place, it was said the old man wept when he signed it. James Madison, known as the father of the Constitution because of his copious notes and an extraordinary understanding of the systems of federalism, wrote this: whilst the last members were signing it, Dr. Franklin, looking towards the president's chair, at the back of which a rising sun happened to be painted, observed to a few members near him that painters had found it difficult to distinguish in their art a rising from a setting sun. I have, said he, often and often in the course of the session and the vicissitudes of my hopes and fears as to its issue, looked at that behind the president without knowing whether it was rising or setting. But now at length, I have the happiness to know that it is a rising and not a setting sun. On leaving Independence Hall and encountering the public, Dr. Franklin was asked, "What, sir, have you given us?" To which Franklin replied, "A republic, if you can keep it. A republic, if you can keep it." This is what we are charged with. This is what we must do to keep America the greatest place to live on earth. The keeping of this republic is the end to which the American Legion has largely dedicated its educational and youth services program. Our oratorical program is one of the few venues pushing for an enlightened understanding of our Constitution. George Mason argued throughout the constitutional debates that without a virtuous people, no system of legal codes could withstand the test of time. Virtuous in his time, meaning civic-minded, well-informed, truthful, and forthright. That is what our program attempts to instill in youth. We must keep it. We will be having our oratorical contest on February 17th, Saturday, at 10 o'clock. It will be in the Region Center at 400 West Capitol. That's the block between 400 Capitol and Broadway and Spring Street. We'll be on the 16th floor in the conference center. This year, hopefully, we'll have 8 contestants. We have 2 people, previous winners, who will be returning from past years. So this is going to be a very exciting contest. If you haven't been to one of these, and you've seen some kids that can speak good, you're going to hear some more kids that can really speak. So I would encourage all of you to come and hear these kids and what they have to say about the Constitution. We have a very devoted group of committee volunteers that work this, and I would like to ask at this time if you guys would stand. They put in a lot of time. In closing, I'd just like to ask that everybody please make an effort to attend this.